Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far and welcome to today's video, which is going to be all about the brand new Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Radiant Concealer that just launched. I'm going to be trying this out for you, showing you my under eyes and how it does there. I'm going to be showing you all the different shades and swatches in comparison to lots of other concealers and just letting you know all of my thoughts on this very exciting surprise launch from Charlotte Tilbury. So without further ado, let's get started. So this concealer launched yesterday on Charlotte Tilbury's website. Maybe it was by accident, who knows? Charlotte Tilbury's socials are still saying this is launching soon, coming on the 25th, but we already have it. We already caught it on the website, along with her new setting powder. So initially we thought this was going to be one shade, a translucent version, easy for you to say, of her very iconic pressed setting powder, but actually, thank goodness, there are two shades available, one for fair to medium skin and one for tan to deep, of a new pressed setting powder. So that's really exciting. This collection actually consists of the concealers along with a setting powder. I didn't pick up the setting powder. I don't use a lot of setting powders, but also I was kind of in the hunt, and when I saw these concealers pop up on her website, there was only like two shades and they were clearly like adding the products as they were going, and so I just snatched them up, and the powders were launched later, so I missed those. But everything is available now. I will link it down in my description box for you, but they are available now, as are the powders. So let's have a little read about some of the claims of this concealer. So this is a medium buildable concealer with 16 hours of wear. It can conceal, correct, brighten and lift. Charlotte also recommends getting a brightening shade, a correcting shade, and that you can also use this as a contour if there's a shade that would work for you in that way. The concealer claims to be a radiant liquid concealer that brightens, smooths and lifts the look of your complexion, and it is infused with hydrating hyaluronic acid, pore refining niacinamide, brightening, radiance boosting golden vitamin C and vegan collagen to improve the look of your skin every time you wear it. So as is pretty typical of Charlotte Tilbury's brand, there are like skincare claims in here along with the sort of makeup aspect of the concealer. It also claims to be sweat proof, humidity proof and waterproof. So this concealer is available for £25 or $33, and there are 30 shades to choose from, which is a really decent number of shades for a concealer, and you get 7.2 grams for your money, which is a pretty generous fill amount. One of my favorites, the Pat McGrath, is actually 5ml, which is a pretty stingy amount. Both the Hourglass and the NARS Radiant concealers, two very popular concealers, they're both 6. And Huda Beauty, as always, very generously gives us 9ml. I feel like Huda always gives like a lot of product for your money. But yeah, 7.2 grams is a pretty decent fill size for this concealer, and you can see it is definitely a bit larger than the Pat McGrath. I absolutely love this packaging. Let's have a close-up look at this packaging. It's absolutely gorgeous. I really love how chic it is, beautifully matches the Beautiful Skin Foundation component as you would expect it to, and I just really like all the details on there. Really nice. Love the gold lids, really pretty. Charlotte Tilbury just always hits the packaging nail on the head, doesn't she? So shades were definitely a little confusing. I ordered 2 because I really had no idea what was going on or what shade I might be, so I picked up 6.5 and 8 to be on the safe side. Both claim to be like medium neutral shades, and both were much lighter than I was expecting. If I could do this all again, if you're like a shade twin for me, I would probably go up a shade or 2 into the 9s maybe, because as you'll see from the swatches, both of these are actually quite light. So on the shade note, let's have a look at some swatches of these other concealers that I've mentioned to see how they compare and what might be a good shade for you. Okay, so here is the 6.5 in the new Charlotte Tilbury, and there we have shade 8. So we've got 6.5 and 8 of the new concealers from Charlotte. Next we have Cookie Dough from Huda. Then we have Cafe con Leche from NARS. Then we have shade 9 in the Pat McGrath and shade 15 from Pat McGrath. So that's like my winter shade is 9 and 15 is my summer. As you can see, these are all kind of in the ballpark to 9, I would say. And lastly, we have Sepia from Hourglass, which is far lighter. So I would definitely say that 8, which is the shade that I would say is my shade, is really close actually to my Huda shade, Cookie Dough. And I love both of these shades, nice classic neutrals. I think 6.5 is leaning a little pink for me, and it's definitely a bit light. But they're kind of, all of these shades apart from the Hourglass are kind of in the ballpark, I would say, for what I typically use. So hopefully those swatches are helpful if you're trying to determine which shade you are. As I said, 8 definitely works for me. It's fine, but it is quite bright. I could definitely have gone with a slightly deeper shade, but I like the undertones of these. I think either will work nicely, and I think 6.5 will be a great winter shade for me too. So I think that is all the information I have to share on this concealer. Let's have a look at how it actually performs. Okay, so foundation is on, and today I use the Hourglass foundation in the shade 10.5, which is my summer shade. I'm going to use the shade 8 medium of the Charlotte Tilbury because for sure 6.5 is going to be too light. Like even this shade, which is 8, is like, this is bright. Okay, this is brightening. The wand is super tiny. That's like the first thing I'm kind of noticing, is the wand is small, very precise. It's not picking up like a huge amount of product. So I'm not finding it like it's laying down too much product. It's laying down a nice like small amount of product. I actually would even like maybe dip again just to get a bit more on this side of my under eye. So that's nice. I prefer like a wand that doesn't distribute too much product because it's easier to add than it is obviously to take away. So that's nice, and it's really nice and precise for like carving out eyes and down the bridge of the nose. That is all perfect. So I always typically blend out my concealer with my beauty blender, my damp beauty blender. So that is what I'm going to do today. Any problems, I could always try and build coverage with a brush. This is a medium coverage concealer. It says medium buildable, so I'm kind of expecting it like not to give me the amount of coverage that I typically like. I usually like a full coverage concealer to cover like my under eye darkness. So yeah, I'm kind of expecting this to like not be enough coverage for me, but it is. I feel like that's like covered everything that I want it to cover as far as like my dark circles and things. It's blending out beautifully. It's not like drying down too quickly or anything like that. It literally took zero effort to blend in. I'm just going to add a teensy bit. I don't even really know why I'm doing this. I don't know that I necessarily feel like it hasn't covered everything, but I just want to see how it builds because it does say it's a buildable concealer. I mean, I feel like that's covered everything that my other concealers, my Huda concealer, my Pat McGrath concealer, that are, you know, just full coverage beasts. I don't feel like I'm lacking the coverage that I usually have with those. Just change my settings a little. I'm getting as close as I can so you can kind of see what's going on under here. I haven't set it yet, so what you're seeing now is that sort of luminosity that the finish of this concealer has, which I really like. Definitely more coverage than I perhaps was expecting with it being called, you know, a medium concealer. I thought it was going to actually be like not good enough to cover my under eye darkness, but it definitely has, like more than enough for what I like, and it's definitely giving me that luminous finish. And obviously this has only just gone on, I haven't set it yet, but that being said, I would have expected this being a luminous concealer to really start creasing like straight away, especially as I haven't set it yet. But so far, I think that's looking really good. So let's set before it's too late. I'm going to use my Pat McGrath banana or yellow powder like I always do. That's my same brush, same powder that I use with all my concealers, so I can really tell what is going on. Don't want to use anything new. I want to use all the same other variables that I typically use with concealer. Okay, and so here is the concealer set with my usual Pat McGrath powder. Really no creasing yet. It's looking nice and smooth. It went like paired nicely with my powder, no issues. Obviously now the luminosity has been slightly dulled because of the powder that I've set it with, but it's still looking nice and light and natural and smooth, and it feels very lightweight. I'm really noticing it feel like my under eye area feels like more hydrated and lighter than it typically does. But there's definitely still a bit of luminosity left from the finish of the concealer compared to the typical concealers I use. The Huda and the Pat McGrath are both matte concealers, matte full coverage concealers, and my under eye now is definitely looking more luminous than it does even with those concealers both set with powder. This has now been set with powder. I can still see some luminosity through the powder, which is actually really nice. It hasn't fully covered absolutely like to the hilt my under eyes, but this is pretty much what I get from full coverage concealers without using a corrector. So I'm actually pleasantly surprised at the coverage. So let me finish my makeup and see how it's doing in like an hour or so. Okay, so I filmed another video. I've done a lot of all the swatches, a bit of editing and things like that, and I've had my lunch, and we are back now a couple of hours after I first applied this concealer under my eyes, and everything is looking really good. Okay, no creasing, no settling, no exaggerating of anything. Let's have a zoomed in look, shall we? Let's see the close-up T on these under eyes. So yeah, really no creasing or separating or anything funky happening under my eyes. You can definitely still see like some luminosity and radiance under my eyes, which I don't know whether I'm a huge fan of it or not. I can't quite tell. I do think this doesn't look quite as smooth as the Huda Beauty concealer does. I think this looks more akin to the Pat McGrath. Great coverage, really no settling or exaggerating of lines or creasing or anything like that happening. But you can still like see lines. Obviously it doesn't make them invisible, it doesn't work miracles, but yeah, it hasn't sort of smoothed that area as much as I find the Huda Beauty concealer does. You can still see, I don't know what you can see on camera, but you can still see a little bit of like darkness showing through, which is exactly what you would expect from a medium coverage concealer, but it feels really hydrating, and it feels really lightweight, so that is all a big fat bonus. So let's talk about my first impressions and experience of this Charlotte Tilbury concealer. Without a doubt, I can already say that this is my favourite concealer that I've ever tried from Charlotte Tilbury. The Magic Away, I just never really got along with that well. It was a really stingy amount of product. I wasn't a big fan, like most people, of the sponge applicator in there. I could never get the flipping lid off as well. That was another thing. This one looks way better for me and did way better on my under eye areas than the Magic Away did, even though I'm like 5 years older now. So that's a win. I really like the coverage. I like the packaging. I like the doe foot that's really diddy, and it has that nice slant to it that allows you to get right into really specific small areas. That is all a tick, tick, tick for me. I like the undertones. I think it's got a good shade range from what I can see and tell just from the photos at least. It blended in really quickly and easily with no effort, and it built really nicely on itself as well. I'm not sure how I feel about the finish of this concealer. I've always leaned more so towards matte concealers as opposed to luminous radiant concealers, but I feel like I could get used to this. It's not really like brightening, like it's really beaming off your skin and sort of shining a light under your eyes, which is what I don't like. When really luminous, like dewy concealers, I feel like that's a bit much, you know, it's calm down. This is more soft and subtle of a luminosity, particularly when it's set, but it's still there. And I feel like that might grow on me with more use. It's just not what I'm used to. It's set really nicely with the powder. And yeah, it worn so far over the last few hours, it's worn really nicely with no creasing or settling. Typically for me, if a concealer is going to crease or settle into my fine lines in a way that I don't like, that happens pretty much straight away, like in the first hour or so that's happening. But I will of course update you in the comment section if that has happened in the next rest of the day. I'll also be updating you on my more comprehensive use over the next couple of weeks in my roundup for August, so make sure you check that out if you want to see how this is going in a few weeks time, using it like every day. Definitely an improvement on the Magic Away. I like that it's a medium coverage, kind of like natural medium, goes with the aesthetic of the brand, works really nicely with the Beautiful Skin foundation that I'm also a big fan of. I think that's going to be a really beautiful combination. Very Charlotte Tilbury, that gorgeous luminous skin that the brand loves and focuses on. So this is definitely going to be a big hit for the brand. They needed a better concealer to like come up to meet the rest of their products. It was definitely a weakness for the brand. It's something I spoke about in my makeup predictions. If you remember, if you watched that video, what I predicted to release this year, concealer from Charlotte Tilbury was one of those. They needed a reformulation, and I do expect actually the Magic Away to disappear, because if you've noticed, it's been like out of stock in most shades for a long time. I think this is probably replacing it, but who knows? Do you know? Let me know if you know something that I don't know. I think if you like a radiant finish for your concealer, you're going to love this one because it's really beautiful and soft and subtle. Me, it's going to take a bit of getting used to. That's why I want to use it a bit more to give you my final thoughts. But first impressions, so far so good. It covered more than I expected to. The luminosity is not as like over the top as I was perhaps afraid that it would be. Definitely the coverage is better than I expected or thought it would be. And actually the shades are better than I thought they would be. Maybe I thought they were going to be too yellow for me. And actually how light these are just show actually how light the shade range is going to be, because at shades 6 and 8 they're still quite light on me, so looks like really nice shades on the fairer end of the spectrum as well. So lots of really good positive things from my experience. I am excited to see how it grows on me. Please, as always, let us know if you have tried this concealer or the new powder and how you got along with it in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I'd love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye.